For 3 years, investigators dug up properties across Michigan looking for a missing woman. They charged her husband with murder before they ever found her, and when they finally did, she was 2 miles from her own front door, on land the family owned. The story begins on a sprawling farm property in Franklin Township, Michigan, a place of wide open fields and the quiet hum of agricultural life. This was the home of Dee Warner, 52, a businesswoman who, alongside her husband Dale, ran several large farming operations. Their life was woven into the fabric of this rural Lenawee County community. They had been married since 2006, their partnership a blend of personal ties and professional ties that stretched across acres of land and years of shared history. The last day anyone saw Dee Warner alive was Saturday, April 24, 2021. The air on the farm was reportedly thick with tension. Police would later learn that an argument had erupted between Dee, her husband Dale, and 1 or 2 of their employees. The conflict was about money, the intricate and often stressful finances that underpinned their shared businesses. Shouted words echoed across the property, a sharp counterpoint to the usual rural calm. The next morning, Sunday, April 25th, the Munger Road farmhouse was quiet. Dee's truck was still in the driveway, her purse was still inside. But Dee herself was gone without a trace, a sudden absence that left an immediate and chilling void. The first alarm was raised not by her husband, but by family and friends who couldn't reach her. The silence from Dee was deeply uncharacteristic, a stark deviation from the constant communication she maintained with her loved ones. As hours turned into a day, the farmhouse that was once a hub of activity became a static crime scene, a place of unanswered questions. Where could she have gone? Why would she leave everything behind? The theories were few, and the evidence was even scarcer. The only thing that was certain was that a woman had vanished from the very heart of her own life. While some held out hope that Dee had simply taken off for a while, as her husband would later suggest to police, one person was immediately convinced of foul play. Dee's brother, Gregg Hardy, felt a deep, instinctual certainty that his sister would never have willingly left her family or her life. His suspicion quickly solidified into a relentless quest for answers. From the earliest days of her disappearance, he began a campaign that would soon become ubiquitous across the county. He printed signs, organized searches, and spoke to anyone who would listen. The message was simple and unwavering: justice for Dee. This fight, born of a brother's love and a terrible gut feeling, would last for 5 long years, a constant public demand for the truth. As the initial shock of Dee Warner's disappearance gave way to a formal police investigation, Lenawee County Sheriff's deputies arrived at the Munger Road farm. They needed to speak with the last person known to have seen her husband Dale. When they approached him, their body cameras were rolling, capturing an interaction that would later be scrutinized frame by frame. Dale Warner seemed calm, almost nonchalant. There was no visible panic, no frantic energy, just a quiet composure that struck investigators as odd. Dale told the deputies a simple story. He said it wasn't unusual for his wife to take off. This was something she did, he implied. He painted a picture of a woman who might leave for a few days to cool off, clear her head after a disagreement. To investigators, his words seemed to downplay the severity of the situation, but it was his lack of apparent concern that was so unsettling. This disconnect between the situation and his reaction planted a seed of suspicion, a question that would linger for years. If his wife was truly missing, why did he seem so sure she would just turn up? With Dee Warner officially missing and her husband offering little help, the Lenawee County Sheriff's Office launched a full-scale search. The landscape itself presented an enormous challenge. Endless fields, dense woods, murky ponds, agricultural buildings. Local effort was soon bolstered by federal resources. The FBI joined the investigation. Search teams, civilian volunteers organized by Gregg Hardy's Justice for Dee campaign, fanned out across the county. They walked grid patterns and peered into the dark corners of abandoned farm structures. Despite the massive effort, the search yielded nothing. There was no sign of Dee, no clue. The vast, quiet landscape seemed to have swallowed her whole. As the investigation stretched from weeks into months, and then into a full year, a sense of stagnation set in. The case was growing cold. The Lenawee County Sheriff's Office had exhausted its leads, leaving behind a file thick with dead ends and unanswered questions. In 2022, the Sheriff's Office made a difficult but crucial decision. They formally requested that the Michigan State Police take over as the lead agency. The handover was a complex process, transferring years of evidence, interview notes, and forensic data. The Michigan State Police inherited a case defined by its lack of physical evidence. There was no body, no weapon, no confession. This period of transition was a long, quiet limbo. Everyone knew Dee Warner was missing. Everyone suspected her husband. But with no new developments, the investigation seemed to exist in a state of suspended animation, waiting for a single thread to pull that could unravel the entire, frustrating mystery. More than 2 years passed. By November 2023, the Michigan State Police were painstakingly rebuilding the case. They faced a monumental legal challenge, charging a suspect with murder without a body. No-body prosecutions are notoriously difficult. The state had to convince a jury Dale Warner killed his wife. The state had to convince a jury his wife was, in fact, dead, not simply missing. It was a gamble they were now willing to take. The arrest warrant was finally issued. In November 2023, the quiet tension over Lenawee County was shattered. Dale Warner was arrested and formally charged with murder. They put all their cards on the table, betting a jury would see truth in patterns of behavior, all without the final definitive evidence of the victim. Throughout the 2.5 years between Dee's disappearance and Dale's arrest, one voice refused to be silenced. Gregg Hardy, Dee's brother, had transformed his personal grief into a relentless public crusade. His Justice for Dee campaign was more than just a slogan. It was a grassroots movement that kept the case alive when official progress seemed to stall. He fought every single day for 5 years, a marathon of persistence fueled by a brother's love. For Gregg Hardy, Dale Warner's arrest was a significant milestone. It was validation. He told reporters that validation was very hard to come by until that moment. In August 2024, nearly 9 months after Dale Warner's arrest, the investigation took a grim and decisive turn. Acting on new information, Michigan State Police investigators focused their attention on a farm building located on another Warner-owned property near the small community of Tipton. The location was achingly close, just 2 miles from her own front door. Inside the farm building, they found it, the object that held the secret to Dee's disappearance. It was a large, sealed farm tank. The long, agonizing search was over. The family's desperate hope of bringing Dee home could finally be realized, though in the most heartbreaking way imaginable. The tank itself told a story. It was an anhydrous ammonia tank. However, it was empty of the chemical. A handwritten tag was affixed to its side. The tag read, "Out of service and do not fill." This detail was chilling. Further examination of the tank revealed more disturbing details. Prosecutors said that the heavy-duty steel tank had been cut open. After the body was placed inside, the tank was then carefully resealed. The final step in the concealment was to repaint the exterior. The evidence suggested a series of conscious, deliberate decisions were made. Each step was another layer in a calculated plot to commit the perfect murder and get away with it. With the discovery of the remains, the final, terrible piece of the puzzle could be put into place. The report was presented as testimony during the trial, a single devastating sentence that cut through 3 years of speculation. A medical examiner testified that Dee Warner died from strangulation and blunt force trauma to her head. The statement was delivered plainly. It confirmed that Dee's death was not an accident. It was violent. It was a homicide. For Gregg Hardy and the family, hearing the official cause of death was a moment of profound pain and grim validation. The fight for justice for Dee now had the evidence it needed. In January 2026, the case of the state of Michigan versus Dale Warner began. The trial was the culmination of a nearly 5-year saga that had gripped the community. Leading the state's case was prosecutor Jackie Wise. She argued that Dale Warner had killed his wife and then, instead of seeking help, embarked on a cold and calculated cover-up. Wise told the jurors that Warner could have called 911, but he didn't. The prosecution's case was not built on a single dramatic piece of evidence, but on a vast and complex web of digital footprints. Prosecutors presented data showing vehicle movements at odd hours, in locations that aligned with their theory of how Dee's body was transported and concealed. She helped paint a picture of Dee as a devoted mother, not someone who would simply abandon her family and responsibilities. When it was her turn, defense attorney Mary Chartier stood before the jury with a clear and singular mission to introduce reasonable doubt. Chartier emphasized Dale Warner consistently cooperated with law enforcement. He answered questions and repeatedly denied involvement. She argued the absence of direct evidence was a major weakness. No eyewitnesses, no confession, no DNA linking Dale to the crime. She told the court Dale Warner maintains his innocence. He had asked her to tell them he loved his wife and that he did not kill her. The legal arguments were over. Now the fate of Dale Warner rested in the hands of the 12 jurors. For 9 hours, spread across 2 tense and grueling days, the jury debated behind closed doors. In March of 2026, the wait was over. The jury sent word that they had reached a verdict. The clerk's voice cut through the stillness of the room, reading the jury's decision. Guilty. Guilty of second-degree murder. Guilty of tampering with evidence. The fight for justice, at least in this courtroom, was won. On May 7, 2026, Dale Warner returned to the Lenawee County Circuit Court for the final time. For sentencing, Judge Michael Olsever said the crimes left lasting psychological harm on the victim's family. The sentence was severe. For second-degree murder, 31 to 60 years in prison. For tampering with evidence, 17 months to 10 years, consecutive. For Gregg Hardy, the verdict and sentence were the culmination of a 5-year battle. The word guilty and the long sentence were the official acknowledgement of the truth he had known from day one. Yet the story is not entirely over. Dale Warner maintains his innocence. He plans to appeal. While the trial brought legal justice, it may never bring peace. The memory of the woman who vanished from her own home, and the brother who refused to let her disappear, will linger for a long, long time.